In this video, I'll show you how to get started throwing on the wheel. The first part is getting your clay on the wheel head and learning how to center the clay. I have about a little bit under 1.5 pounds of clay here. It's a good amount to start with. It's been wedged, and I've smacked the clay into a regular kind of ball, and I've attached my bat to the wheel head, and I have my splash pan ready, and I have a full bucket of water, and I have my tools laid out here on the work surface. The first step is to get your ball of clay into the center of the wheel. You want your wheel head to be a little bit damp. Just add a little bit of moisture. Use your towel to wipe it a little bit, just slightly damp. If it's too much moisture, the clay will slip and slide off of it. You're going to take your ball of clay, make sure that the bottom of it is convex, so when you throw it down, it doesn't trap any air underneath of it. So our first step is to smack down. So we're going to throw the clay right into the center of the wheel. Now, it's hard to get it right in the middle every time, so now we're going to slowly turn the wheel and smack it more towards the center. You just want to look down and make sure that it's not moving around like this. And if you see it off center a little bit, just push it more towards the center in that area. Okay. As you're throwing on the wheel, you want your legs to be, your thighs to be parallel with the floor. So if your legs are a little bit shorter than mine, you might find that your knees are quite low compared to the wheel in your hips. So you want your thighs to be parallel. If you need, you can grab some bricks from around the studio and put a brick underneath your foot here and a brick underneath the pedal here, and that'll raise your thighs up so they're parallel to the floor. Now, as we're throwing and centering, we always want to have our elbows locked onto our thighs. And so that's why it's important for your legs to be a sturdy tripod, so you can really have your elbows locked onto your thighs. So we've done our smack down, and we've patted the clay towards the center. Now we want to get our hands wet. We're going to dip our hands in our water up to our wrists. Don't be shy. Get your hands really wet. You want your sponge to also be wet and full of water. So our next step is to seal it. So we want to seal that clay down to the wheel head so it doesn't move around. So we're going to put some water on it. Our hands are nice and wet. And we're going to get the wheel spinning pretty fast. And we're going to compress down. I'm using the balls of my hand here, and I'm pressing down on the top of the clay. I'm not worried about it being centered right now. I just want to get it stuck to the wheel head. So that should be good. And now our next step is to cone up. So we're going to squeeze the clay together like this, and we're going to create a cone shape out of the clay. So we're going to use our water. I'm going to compress the clay in. I'm going to have my hands in this triangular shape to create a cone, and I'm going to press them together and squeeze and tense up my muscles in my shoulders and squeeze. Now every time I let go of the clay, I want to relax those muscles and slowly let go. Now if you feel your hands starting to stick on the clay because it's a little bit dry, just relax and let go and get some more water. I like to use my sponge in my hand. Make that cone shape. Once the clay is in that cone shape, now we're ready to press it downward. And this is a process called wheel wedging. So we cone it up and press it down, and that will help wedge the clay right here on the wheel head, and it'll allow us to get the clay centered more easily. So we're going to make sure our hands are wet. The clay is wet. Now we're going to press down with the balls of our thumbs, elbows locked, relax, and let go. So as you can see, I was using the balls of my thumb, the pads of my hand here, and pressing downward, but I was also curling my fingers around the side like this. So that is actually a little pretty close to being centered, but I want to cone up and compress down at least 2 more times. So I'm going to add some more water. I'm going to cone upwards, tensing up the shoulders, my back, my elbows are locked. Now I'm going to relax my muscles, relax my hands, and slowly let go. We'll compress down again, add more water, compress down, elbows locked, muscles tensed, compressing down, slowly letting go and relaxing. And I think one more time, and that clay will be centered. Add some water. Press upwards and do a cone shape. That time when I compressed, I was using my other hand to help my left hand to help my right hand compress, really squeezing all around that clay to create that cone shape. Now we're going to compress down, and this final compression is where I'm really trying to center the clay. So it's really important that I'm locked and stable. As I compress down, I'm holding my shoulders tight and my muscles as tight as I can and compressing downward. If the clay is a little off center, I don't want to let it move me around. I want to just hold as still as possible. So that clay, as it's coming around a little bit off center, gets hit by my hand and has to go to the center. It's only 1.5 pounds of clay. Don't let it push you around. So I'm going to compress down and squeeze with my fingers towards the bottom and compress downward with my thumbs like this. Elbows locked, shoulders tense, compressing down. Relax and let go. And so that's centered. I can tell because when I have it spinning and rest my fingers on the side, my hand doesn't move. My fingers don't move. If this was off center, I'll push it off center so you can see. So I'm going to get it off center. See how my fingers are moving as it spins around? So while you're learning to throw, I would repeat this process over and over and over again before you move past this. Getting the clay centered is one of the most important steps. If the clay isn't centered before you begin to open up and throw a pot, everything will be off. So make sure that you can figure out how to center. Spend a few hours just coning up and coning down and centering. And you may need to have many balls of clay ready to go. I have an extra ball of clay here that's wrapped in plastic so it doesn't dry out. If this clay gets too soft or I've kind of peeled a lot of it away, no problem cutting it off and putting a new piece down. So we're going to cone up using the balls of my hand here and the fingers on my right hand here to compress that clay into that cone shape. Compress down, tense up, elbows locked, relax before you let go. Now another way to center, if you feel like you've coned up and compressing down, and as you compress down it's not centering very well, you can try to just center it without coning it up. So the way you do that is to use your left hand here, and I'm going to press that direction with my left hand. With my right hand, I'm going to come in and compress from the very center top down around here like this. So this hand's going to kind of wrap around the clay like that. Two hands are going to work together as one tool. Going to add some water. The wheel's spinning pretty fast right now. I'm going to come in and I'm going to push this way with my left hand and down like this with my right hand. And you compress up, elbows locked in, apply pressure, relax, and let go. You can also look up more videos on YouTube on how to center. There are many, many ways. There's no one right way. The fact that you can get the clay centered is the most important part. So if you find a different hand position works well for you, that's totally fine. In the next video, we'll show you how to create a donut shape and open the clay up and pull up into a cylinder shape.